How's it, guys? Welcome to this episode of the Diverge Podcast. Thank you very much for tuning in. This week we are looking back at the FNB Wines2Whales Chardonnay and Pinotage races, as well as the Dryland Traverse trail run, and then looking ahead at the Shiraz, which of course pretty much wraps up the racing season really on the mountain biking front. There's of course Dryland coming up as well, but that's not a CSA sanctioned event, and then there's Origin of Trails as well later on in November, but that's very much a cheese and wine, beer and ice cream ride. Definitely one to do, but yeah, one for the enthusiasts rather than the races. In past years, a lot of the elites have actually taken part in Origin of Trails and have really just ridden it for fun. So yeah, if you're looking for something to do later on in November, that's a great one. Great 2 days of riding around Stellenbosch, and it's always swelteringly hot, but it's always a good jaw as well, and rides absolutely spectacular trails too. But now let's dive right into the Wines2Whales action from the Chardonnay race, which of course was the women's race. A lot of focus there on the elite women's racing, and although there definitely are some problems in the depth of the elite women's field, there are some really great takeaways from this year's Chardonnay. Most notably probably being the strength of Tyler Jacobs and how she's developed over the last 12 months. Once again, her and Candice Lill won all three stages, took a clean sweep of stage victories. But yeah, Tyler's definitely grown in the last 12 months. And then the other big positive to take out of that, I think, is probably how well Sarah Hill raced alongside Vera Lauser. And yeah, great to see Sarah at the more competitive end of the women's field again. They came second. They were 11 minutes 55 down, so a big gap there. But again, well up on the next team, 18 minutes up on the third place team, the Efort 2 team. Efort 1 team there. So yeah, that's a big result for Sarah after a year where she's won a couple of trail seekers and done pretty well in solo racing, but it's good to get back to the sharp end of team racing there for her. A little bit further down the field, of course, that's the Working Heroines, and their race was pretty competitive as ever, and I think that's hopefully that Pedal for Good jersey, which Yaku started last year for the Cape Epic, will continue, and we'll continue to see that side of the women's field grow. It is kind of more of a fundraiser thing, but still, yeah, I think it's good for the depth of women's racing, even though they should probably be racing in the amateur category rather than elites. But it sort of just goes to show that, you know, there's value to be had in riding your bike super competitively into your late 20s and 30s, even if you're not at that like proper true elite international standard level. And I think there's probably a bit of a gap for that, something similar to happen on the men's side as well, and a little bit of a formalization of that would probably be good for the competitiveness and depth of the men's racing there as well, and just the enthusiasm that people have for it, that it's not just a battle between the bros, that there's actually something more at stake. And I think that could make a big difference to amateur racing, amateur mountain biking in South Africa. So sort of maybe something to look out for, think about for 2025 and beyond. But yeah, let's turn to the woman of the hour and hear from Candice Lill what she had to say and what she made of Tyler Jacobs' progress over the last 12 months. Tell us about the emotions of defending the title alongside Tyler.
Oh, it's been so much fun. It wasn't a super emotional journey. I think it was relatively straightforward for us, winning all 3 stages. But for me, it was just extra special to race with Tyler after a whole busy season that we've had together this year, and also to see her how she's grown from last year's Wines2Whales to this one. So it was awesome. I think as a racer, it's always about your confidence in yourself that makes a big difference. And she's definitely grown in that way. I said to her today she must make some decisions and see what she wants to do with the racing, and she did some really cool and smart things, so I'm proud.
Thanks, Candice. And then let's touch base with Sarah Hill and get her thoughts on this year's FNB Wines2Whales Chardonnay. Sarah, tell us about the last 3 days.
The last 3 days of this Chardonnay Wines2Whales has been absolutely incredible. The weather has been amazing, and the trails have been something that I've just absolutely fallen in love with. We finished here at a new venue, and this finish here, you really get to see the ocean. You come through, you see the finish line, and it was just such a cool, competitive race. I mean, I really enjoyed it.
And what was the highlight of the final stage for you?
Quite a few highlights. I think my favorite part is the fact that we started playing different sports. So at one point we had the E-Fort lady slide tackle us like a true soccer player into one of the corners. Poor Candice didn't know where she was. We all came into a corner really hot, and I had a good laugh at that, and she was all right. And then not long after that, Bianca, we came up to a fence that was closed. So Bianca took her bike and threw it over the fence and jumped over like a true adventure racer. And then one of the other girls just flipped a switch and opened the gate for us. And what it does is it takes you away from the racing. You all have a good laugh at each other, and you get back on your bikes and you carry on. I had such a good partner. We had such a good race, and now I can finally say that my season is over.
Thanks, Sarah. And then let's touch base with Tiffany Keep. Tiff, of course, raced with Bianca Hall. They lost almost 45 minutes on the first day with a huge puncture. Tiffany slashed her sidewall on a 6-inch nail that was sticking out of one of the bridges, and they tried to plug it. They put in 3 big plugs into the hole and then multiple small plugs around it. Managed to nurse the bike to a water point, and then had a new tire put on by the neutral support there. Finished the stage, and then after that they were very competitive. Finished 4th on the next 2 stages. Fought their way back into sort of contention for the top 5 places, but were never quite able to catch Katie Leonard and Isla Stowe, who held on to 5th overall. So I think, maybe a little bit disappointing from that, but Tiff and Bianca seem to really enjoy the experience and enjoy racing together, and it was great to see Bianca back in competitive women's teams racing as well. So here's Tiffany Keep with her rundown of the Wines2Whales.
I actually think it was harder than I expected it to be. I came into this race having 3 weeks off season, which is not the best prep when you have a flying partner like Bianca, but she was awesome the whole race. Supported me so much and was so encouraging and really helped me push my limits, which was actually really awesome. So, and it was a bit of a type A type of fun, but it was still fun and really good. And today with the new finish venue is really, really nice. I think I appreciate it's a bit more downhill at the end, but really, really stoked with how we rode back after disastrous mechanical on stage 1. So I think we can be happy. I really love coming back to this race. I think this is my 5th time doing it, and every year it's still such a highlight on the calendar. I love the vibe around this race. There's a lot of chaos. It's quite relaxed. You race hard and then you chill after, which is a really nice balance, and it's so good to catch up with all my friends from South Africa after a long season overseas. So it's definitely a highlight of my calendar each year, and no matter if I'm in form or not, it's just a good race to come to. It's a lot of fun.
Thanks, Tiff. And then on to the e-bike race at the Pinotage, the midweek Pinotage. Sort of a little bit of a strange one. It's a social race for most of the field, because most of the field are still on normal bikes. but all the focus is very much on the e-bikers. This year, Benno, Willett and Joris Reef were back to defend their title, and they did that at a canter. They were comfortably the fastest team, especially on the single tracks. There was a little bit of controversy, and I think this is something that we will see more of in e-bike racing in South Africa, especially if we are unable to test the power of e-bikes, or test that e-bikes haven't been manipulated and haven't been chipped, as it were. And so there was one particular team that were very fast on the flats, didn't quite have the technical skills to keep it up. But yeah, it caused a little bit of tension within the field there in the men's race. But yeah, there's no testing. It's not illegal, so it kind of just is what it is. In the women's race, Heather Collin and Kerry Old won that pretty comfortably. They won all 3 stages by almost 40 minutes a stage. I'm fairly sure they were the only women's team that had spare batteries, which at Wines2Whales really turns out to be a massive advantage. And being able to swap batteries at water point 2, effectively empty the tank or run your battery down to 20%, because you don't really want to go below 10% because it does the battery damage. But to ride really hard to that second water point around the halfway mark, and then change batteries and then ride really hard again. So you're effectively on boost mode the entire time, rather than trying to limp the bike around, limp it through, and only use boost mode in key points of the stage to try to make your battery last for 3 hours or for 65 kilometers, which is pretty much what the Wines2Whales stages are. So it's that sort of the lack of tactics, I suppose, that is created by having extra batteries at those water points. But then the other thing that came out in the Pinotage race is that I think there's still a lot to be learnt about the management of e-bikes by e-bike riders and e-bike racers, or maybe by the manufacturers themselves, that they just seem buggy. There were a lot of people that had issues with their bikes, especially after the rain on Monday's stage 1. Batteries not connecting properly, electronics malfunctioning slightly, batteries draining really quickly in the cold as well. Lots of people ending up having to ride a heavy e-bike like a normal bike for the final 10 kilometers of a stage. One team had to do 20 kilometers on a flat battery. So things like that. Even though e-bike technology is now well into its second decade, still maybe not quite at the reliability level that we all expect from mountain bikes. And then to that point, the mixed category leaders, the Swiss pairing of Lukas, Dennda and Santina, Malacarne, they were going great guns, were leading very comfortably, had over an hour lead going into the third stage, and then 18 kilometers in, Lukas's battery stopped making connection. Probably was an electronic issue with the engine somewhere, maybe a moisture related. We don't really know. So he tried to fix it at water point 1, couldn't fix it. They pushed on to water point 2. It was sort of largely downhill to water point 2. Swapped batteries there. He'd only used 10% of his battery by that time. Swapping batteries did nothing for the situation. So they took the battery out to save those 4.5 kilograms, and then Santina pushed and pulled Lukas every time they went uphill. There's of course a long climb after water point 2, which this year was at Genevieve MCC, which is a spectacular spot. It is really, go and check it out. Go and try their MCC. It is beautiful. But back to the racing. After that Genevieve water point, the race crosses the Bot River on the old steel bridge, and then starts climbing through Cavadas Contour and up Grafsebos past the shooting range. And that's very definitely the hardest part of of the stage, or the hardest climbing on the stage. And Santina resorted to getting out a spare tube and towing Lukas at times. It was kind of the only way to navigate the single track climbs in particular quickly, was with Lukas hanging on to a spare tube and Santina sort of reaching back to him to pull him along. And by the finish, he was properly broken, and she was pretty tired as well. So here they are with their stories from the stage. Lukas, how hard was that, being towed and pushed?
Wow.
40 kilometers.
Yeah. Actually, it was one of the hardest races I ever did. So yeah, I used 10% of my battery the whole day, and it's definitely 110% of myself. Yeah, I just had an engine cut off after 18 kilometers. So yeah, I can't fix it. Yeah, we decided on the second water point to leave the battery there to save 4.5 kilograms. And yeah, I just had to push on, and yeah, so bad luck today, but the trail was one more time incredible. I tried to enjoy it as much as I can, so yeah. Was a good day with a bit bad luck, but that's racing. Yeah, it was quite sometimes hard to keep concentration high when I was so much on the limit. But yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. Found the flow, and yeah, enjoyed it a lot with the nice view to the sea. Was definitely a good day.
Can you just show us that tube there?
Yeah, this was our best friend today, basically. This is our best friend today. Yeah, I pulled, pushed. We pedaled really hard to get over the finish line. Luckily, Lukas is super strong, and yeah, I guess my arms paid off. So yeah, now I need a beer.
Thanks, Lukas and Santina. Then on to the Dryland Traverse, which, as always, was a spectacle of trail running. Just, I think, 4 incredible days in the mountains in the Swartberg. That Kango Caves prologue is probably one of the most special things in trail running. There's nothing quite like it, I don't think, anywhere in the world, and there's definitely not anything like it in South Africa. And it blew the internationals away. Daniel Jones, who ran with Marcel Hoff, seemed to really enjoy it, and really enjoy the after party as well. And here's his tale from the Dryland Traverse.
Yeah, hey, this is Dan Jones tuning in here. Had a really good time here at Dryland Traverse. The people, the trails, the atmosphere of this whole event has just been unreal. Yeah, so starting out in the prologue, I mean, this is good racing that we've had as well. We had prologue, stage 1, stage 2, some like pretty big days, 20 odd K, 25K, and some good races. We're racing hard against Anderson and John, and they, they've been pushing us every day. But yeah, I think the big thing about this event is probably not looking at the performance aspect, but it's actually about the community aspect. And this event has it in spades. It's just like, you come in each day, people are having a good yarn. We've had the best food, like just heaps of good local traditional food as well. And of course, we just had the after party last night. That's why I am sounding a little bit dusty. But hey, it was a bloody good time. I had the old hooked into a few brandy and cokes, but we're all set for the last day, about to start in 60 minutes or so. And yeah, it's going to, I think, just top off a really good week with some amazing people. So thank you to the Dryland Traverse team for putting on such a cracker event. Cheers.
Thanks, Dan. And then, of course, as promised last week, we have Nicola Freitas' update from her Dryland Traverse experience. Nicola, of course, very much a mountain biker, and just can't say no to events. So she got invited, she went along, and yeah, here's her story from the Dryland Traverse.
Hello, Seamus. So that race is so cool. Oh my gosh, I want to go back every year. I want to make it like a friends thing. Like, there's the date, you pay your entry, everyone goes, you have a campsite to hang out. It's beautiful. It's almost kind of like, we used to do hikes on the Drakensberg like that. Like, you don't have reception, you kind of just have a task to accomplish every day. You do it together and then you hang out for the rest of the day, except now food is included and cooked for you, so it's extra win, and you don't have to carry a massive backpack. So yeah, I'll give you a little bit of background, I think, and then because I'm driving, I think the sound is probably not going to be very good for a podcast. My toes, I have I don't know what point of toes are, to be honest, what function do they serve really? But every time I do kind of hikes, if I'm not used to it, often the toenail of the one toe rubs into the other toe, and then it causes a little bit of a laceration or abrasion there, and then once that's happened, it's so sore and you can't undo it. So the taping was more preventative for a problem that I know is common. Blisters were another thing. I got a lot of preventative things for blisters. That was the worst, actually, and I didn't even have bad blisters, so it wasn't bad at all. But I got some Emla cream, which is an anesthetic cream, and then at the start I just put that on the blisters, and then it wouldn't be sore for 2 hours, which is a win. I'm very proud of that. That was some good planning on my side, because that worked well. I can't walk, no, but it was worth it. We had some international pros there this year, and a whole lot of Adidas sponsors. I don't know how often the pros come, but some Adidas sponsored runners, and then obviously the Greilings, and Christian Greiling was coaching Anderson and his teammate, who are locals in Oudtshoorn and who were doing really, really well. They came second, but really only by a little bit. And Christian was trying to coach them into trying to get a stage win. But overall, he was just really happy that they got this exposure. These Oudtshoorn local guys got these exposure against some international runners, and then ended up coming so close. It was really cool as a what do you call it, not a civilian, but just another runner, to be exposed to to these people that have a really massive reputation, and everyone is so down to earth and friendly and open for a chat. It's very special. And then obviously I'm just trying to give you, another cool thing was there was 2 runners, and they ran with flutes, a recorder, and every kilometer or so they would play on their recorder. I'm sure there must be some photos and videos on the catch-up reels. That is also, it just makes a difference and special and a cool experience. You're descending on stage, all the descending on stage, the route, that was brutal. Single track was beautiful. There's a lot of water, a lot of river crossings. The toes handled it. Oh my word. The theme was Looney Tunes, and everyone put in so much effort. Oh my gosh.
Thanks, Nix. And then on finally to the FNB Wines2Whales Shiraz. That of course starts tomorrow in Lawrenceford. 66 kilometers, 1,300 meters of climbing, including the Ganto Pass portage. Then stage 2 is Oak Valley to Oak Valley around Paul Kluver's trails and the Oak Valley trails. They were in spectacular condition for the Chardonnay and the Pinotage. They'll probably be a little bit ridden, not some ruts ridden into them now, especially after the damp stage 2 in the Pinotage, and then finishing up stage 3 goes from Oak Valley down to Benguela Cove, which has proved to be a really popular final stage, and that run into the finish line at Benguela Cove in particular has proved very, very popular. So it's going to be exciting racing, but I think probably stage 1 is the one where you can really make time. Stage 2 has often come down to a sprint, and then stage 3 will be difficult to make significant gaps without the leaders having an issue, a puncture or a mechanical or something like that. So I think we can probably look to stage 1 being the one that's raced aggressively. Stage 2 sort of would be watch and wait and wait and see, and then stage 3, another sort of wait and see with a late strike on that Hafsabos climb. But just recap quickly for you on who is taking part this year. Of course, it's Buff Megamos, Volt Anneman and Hans Becking. Hans rode the Pinotage with Luke Lockhart-Ross. Volt's had his off-season already, so they're not expecting to be competitive, but you never know if they're just playing poker, and if they actually are stronger than they say they are. Hans broke his hand in Brazil a couple of weeks ago, but he seemed absolutely fine at the Pinotage, so it might just be a case of poker there between them. For me, the favourites though are Matt Beers and Alex Miller of Toyota Specialized. Insect Science have had a late change to their team, so Herman Fourie is going to be racing with Cape Pioneer Trek winner, or Cape Pioneer winner, Arnaud de Toy. Imbuco's got Marco Hubert and the 2018 and 2019 champion Wessel Butter. Butter, of course, won alongside Beers in those years. Paiga Eurosteel 2's Peter de Toy and Jaden Telo will be another team to watch. They'll be strong. Rousseau Becker's riding with Cronier Beckers for Valley Electrical Titan. Philip Bass and Michael Foster will be riding in support of Paiga Eurosteel 2. Computer Mania's Daniel van Volt is riding with Urshan Specker. Very much dark horse team, that not sure what to expect there. Further down the list, Imbuco Toyota Specialized, Rudy Kuhn and Johan van Sail, one expects will be helping the Toyota Specialized and Imbuco teams if necessary. And then Honeycomb Pro Cycling's Mark Pritson and Tristan Norkier, also very strong riders. Mark Pritson, of course, won in 2022. Tristan is very motivated to try to win Wines2Whales as a race. He hasn't won yet, so that'll be interesting as well. And I think it's gonna be exciting racing to watch. So tune in to the Wines2Whales Instagram stories or Facebook stories if you're of that persuasion to watch that racing go down over the next 3 days. And that is it for this week's Diverge podcast. Remember, you can read all those stories at diverge.info. The links to that are in the show notes as well. And that's it for me. Until next week. See you then. Cheers.